It's been a great show. I'm joined by two of the bigger sponsors at the conference, actually. Dave, the field CEO of Litmus, on
Yep.
my right, and Gilad, the CEO,
No, industry practice.
industry practice guy from
Yeah.
Tulip. Um, so I wanted to, since we're sitting at Prove It, what has been your favorite, other than your own presentation, what was your favorite presentation so far?
So I think there are quite a number of presentations that I liked. The fact that people are showing things, showing the platforms or their software live as a Litmus, I think was a great showing today. Yeah, the fact that it's live, it feels kind of improvisational in a way, and this is what this audience craves. So I
Yeah,
think
I really like the idea of not just showing a bunch of slide decks on the platform, right? Actually going in and connecting to data and solving use cases and doing it on stage.
It's sort of scary, though, right?
Well, as someone that gives demos all the time and things go wrong, it is quite challenging from that. So, we try to do a lot of practice and just make sure it's there. But the tech really helps us, shine in that area anyway.
Yeah,
So it's
it is a
good.
pretty fantastic. I don't know. I think a lot of them do get put up on YouTube, right? The
Yeah, they'll get put
presentations.
up on there so people can then go view them. And we kind of did a little bit of what we did last year because it's a bigger audience. We want to make sure people saw what we were doing last
To
year.
anchor it.
Yes, to anchor it and then build upon that and start talking about AI because everybody's talking about AI now. So
course.
we're no different.
We're going to talk about it now.
I know.
That's awesome. So I usually start out with this question, like, it's been 3-4 years now since the Chat GPT moment. Which was a real inflection point for everybody, basically. When it first happened, Dave, were you immediately like completely bullish on it? Were you a bit more skeptical, standoffish?
I was quite skeptical because I'm a little bit on the other side of the younger group out there that's going to really join that. And I remember all the movies growing up as a kid, and the AI never ended well.
Terminator 2.
That's right. So, but I can tell you is I work with a younger team, and what we're doing with AI at the company has really kind of switched my entire um, thought process around it. My wife's doing a lot of with AI in her role. She's introduced me to stuff and taking classes on it, really trying to understand it. And I'm just seeing the power of it, where it's helping my everyday job. Not just with the company and what we're doing with AI, but me personally is
Awesome.
really helping. So
How about you?
Well, I have kind of a special relationship with AI. So I come from a academic background. I actually did a PhD in this stuff. So
Mhm.
we played with AI back in the '90s. But the funny thing is, I lost faith. I went to work in industry, just dealing with the everyday
Mm.
kind of problems, solve problems. But when I did I see it come back. For me, it was just a great moment. That, we could start using it. I have to say, Tulip was very progressive in that matter. We did not wait a second. We had AI on the platform as soon as we could get our hands on. I was also a bit skeptical in terms of what the industry is ready to do. Uh, but it became very fast. I realized that there's just so much to use it, and I'm just, for me, at the end of my career, or I don't want to say the end, kind of, towards at the age we're in,
the
to
hill's
see,
on the downward slope.
yeah, I got,
That's where we're
how do I
Closer to
put
the
it?
end for the beginning, right?
How do I put it in a positive way, right? But it's really it's very humbling to see kind of the concepts we worked in the '90s uh, coming and becoming kind of everyday life. And by the way, in no way, I mean, look, AI back in the '90s was a green screen with a prompt. So this is very, very different.
Well, actually, it's not that different because the best is
Yeah,
just a
in a
prompt.
way,
You're
yeah.
too early.
I
You're
mean,
too
come on,
early in
cloud
it.
code.
In the
There's
90s.
no.
Maybe it's the same thing. If we take away the veil, maybe it is a green
Just
screen.
the machine's smaller.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Um, well, let's talk about how AI is changing product development because I think it's actually an absolutely massive change, and the rate of change is just absolutely insane. We went from copilots to Cloud Code to anti gravity to whatever we're
What
doing.
time is it? Right.
Yeah, it changed already.
Right.
I mean, by the time it's crazy when customers ask me like, "Hey, Pino, give us the roadmap for 5 years." I'm thinking as soon as I write it down, it's obsolete.
Yeah.
Right? It's crazy.
Yeah.
Um, So in terms of Tulip, how are you guys using it in the development process? How are you using it for documentation and for code and all that?
Yeah. So yeah, everywhere, right? I mean, we are using AI internally for everything in the in every day, both on the commercial operation and engineering. The engineering team, and I'm not that in tune of what's going on in engineering, but it's used across the board. But for us, it's kind of unique because we offer a no-code platform, and I think the one of the aha moments I had about is, I went to a customer and he told me, look, I have this guy who just came back from the weekend. He vibe coded the same apps I can build in Tool. So essentially, we are in a place that not only do we use it internally, we are basically offering kind of the same experience for our users, right? The idea is no code is a way to democratize technology. If you layer on top of that AI, we're basically democratizing, accelerating that democratization, supercharging that democratization to the point where, and if you take a look at some of the newer demos that we're putting in, you essentially talk human language, it creates software for you. So it's taking, product, if you will, development, what was once in the realm of pure software engineering, automation engineering, and now I'm letting a quality engineer basically talk himself to a app.
Right. I suppose it's similar for Litmus.
Yeah, I mean, we've been leveraging ML AI since the start of the company. So that's how we've actually Walker talked about it earlier, where we have progressed in our driver development. So we've embraced that a long time ago. I think the first SI to actually use ML in the product was 6 years ago. We had TensorFlow built into the products like 5 years ago, 6 years ago. So we've been embracing that technology for a while. I think the difference is right now today, I think people want to go in and just say, I'm going to Claude Code. It's like, build me an app that does this. And then, it can kind of do that, but it's not going to really be a long term. I think what you really want to do today, this is today, right? It's going to change in the near future. But, what we're really using it for is developing like the PRD. Like, what's it going to look like? What are the users? We're going to build a framework on it. So it's basically stages that you're doing. We're using different AI models that are different, that are better at one thing or another to really, to do those kinds of things. And it's still agentic AI, but we're actually just leveraging it and doing that same process that we normally do as a process engineer, as a developer. But it's now so streamlined that you can have one person now doing 6 jobs and doing it much quicker. Is basically what we're seeing. And it makes sense that AI is focused on code. I mean, it was developed. They wanted to hit code first because if you make AI build code, then AI can build the next AI, and it gets itself perpetuate. So it makes sense of why they built it that way.
Maybe lost my train of thought for a second. I was going to ask about when you're going to start having agents showing up for scrums.
I wouldn't be surprised. We joke internally. It's like a guy that developed our web portal recently has hired 5 AI agents, so he's now a manager of AI agents.
That's a new skill.
Yeah, it really is.
AI manager.
Yeah. We just got, like I always talk about that we need a Maimonides agents though. The guy's like not really sure. Let's go back and check.
Yeah, well, you still need some interaction.
In fact, why don't we talk about that? Because one of the major problems in the technical world in general, whether it's design or engineering or manufacturing, is determinism, right?
Mm-hmm.
And these models are inherently probabilistic. Of course, you could put guardrails, but what in Tulip, how are you able to get to a level of determinism that's you're confident enough that you're not going to, make a mistake, especially hurt someone on the floor because the AI, screwed it up.
Well, we have the concept of human in the loop. So we are, human centricity is a core. It's a core pillar in composability, which is our concept. And usually I say, we don't not only provide a technology platform, we provide technology platform plus a methodology of how to apply that technology. Human centricity is one of the main pillars, and with that comes, this notion of human in the loop. All the different AI models that we use, across the platform, especially agentic AI, to Dave's point, you have to see them as, in a way, replacing what a human would do. And if you didn't have that, you would have a human. You would still be critical about the output. So anything that an agent provides needs to be taken and reviewed and used the same way that you have people produce, right? So you build that into the platform, and we work in industries not only regulated but regular industries, and you put that if you get I don't know if you saw our demo, but it came with a recommendation based on an Andon alert happens, it digests the data and comes with a recommendation. It's up to the human to decide what to do with that.
Right, but I was thinking more like when it's generating the instruction, it could say this should be 100 degrees, and maybe it's only supposed to be 30 degrees, and
Yeah, but then
you
you
can
need
make a mistake.
human in the loop, right? That's the whole
Okay.
point. It helps an engineer do his job and comes with recommendation before you apply it to the to a tolerance in your work instruction or your automation. You need to have some person to review and make sure it
Yeah.
is. I don't know if in the future we may have agents review each other's work. That's a way to solve it, but we do subscribe to human in the loop. There needs to be, I think as Walker put it, humanity is still a thing, and
Yeah.
we still need people.
I can have another question on that in a second, but what about for litmus? How does
So,
that?
so I think if you really look at, and we've done this before with ML, is closing that loop at the edge. And you talk about determinism, and I think we're a long way from AI being deterministic at all. But having it, as Glab was saying, is like coming up with a response. What I've seen in the past is that response comes back from the ML AI type of system, says, "Hey, here we think you should run these parameters." Right? They're giving it to an operator to then go make those changes. So that's that human in the loop part of it.
Mhm.
But it's not a technology issue, because you could do the same thing like we do with SCADA nowadays, where you put that, to your example, temperature, that say, hey, the temperature should be within this range of adjustment, not don't make it 10,000, right? It's got to be between 70 and 80 or whatever that is. So you can still put those same guardrails in that you would normally do in a SCADA system, but just basically limiting the AI and making sure there's the guardrails, and that is separate from the AI. That was it's a more of a code.
And to your point of failsafe, look, we're still in manufacturing industry is, risk and safety is still high priority, and there are, best practices and processes. And we talk about regulated industry, they're very far away from any kind of deterministic AI doing anything. But it's a way to introduce actually the technologies that look, you still have in the same way that you review parameters or release of products at the end, that somebody has to take a look at it and decide this is good or bad.
And so, which leads me to another question, because before I would usually start asking about how AI is used in your respective products, but since we're talking about humans and AI, the demographics of the people that follow me, I have quite a lot of entry level people, and I'm imagining there's a lot of AI anxiety about taking their jobs and so forth. Um, what advice would you give, or what kinds of things should those younger people in school or out of school be thinking of working on in order to stay relevant?
I have a couple stories on that. So, a lot of friends of mine that I know at my age, their kids are going to college, and they used to come to me all the time and say, "Hey, you're in engineering. What would you recommend to my kid? They want to go into engineering."
Right.
And I'd say, "Go into banking." Is what I would tell them. But I say, no, they really like engineering. They like building stuff. I said, great, go into whatever discipline they did. And this is 10 years ago. I'm saying this. Go take a data science class, because there is going to be a need for, because ML and AI is coming. There's going to be a huge need. So it's like, get that understanding of AI, but also has that foundational engineering part, right? We need
Where you
both
know
of
that
those.
70 is not the right answer.
Exactly. So you need to have both. So I'd say, a friend of mine's put a meme out right when ChatGPT, you mentioned earlier, came out, and everybody's worried about their job. And he sent a meme out, was basically, you're not going to lose your job to AI. You're going to lose your job to someone using AI. And so that's why I say, it's like, don't try to push it away. Go learn about it, educate, challenge it, try to do things with it. That's what's going to be able to have you survive in that. The other part of it is that if you look at, there's some of our guys went to a AI leadership council at Berkeley, and they described, I can't remember who said it, but if it's a triangle, you have AI at the top, you have software companies at the bottom, and users at the bottom, right? They all need each other, right? Because if you take away the software companies, AI falls down, because it needs to help develop code for users. If there's no users, it falls down because there's nobody using
Use.
the code, right? So it's like, hey, we're gonna get rid of all these jobs. Like, then they're gonna have no users for AI, so it's not gonna work, right? So I think we need to look at it from that perspective as well.
Interesting. Nobody's ever answered it that way. Thank you, Dave.
Oh,
It's really
no
good
problem.
because I've asked it a bunch of times.
So you know the so without a doubt, like our universities do not, you know, they haven't caught up, and it's an issue. But I, you know,
When have they ever been ahead?
yeah,
I guess.
exactly. But the, you know, I wrote a blog post about this because my daughter is fine arts major, theater major. You know, the creative folk, they actually have an anti-AI perspective because they don't, you know, it's not creative enough. But I asked her to. She had some job to do, and she needed to paint or come up with something. I said, like, you should try and use the Chat GPT, and she prompted the first time and looked at the result and went, "Oh my God, it's like way off. Nothing I could see. The colors were off. You know, the perspective was off, etc." And I said, "How do you know that?" Well, because that's her. You know, that's her expertise.
Right.
And this brings back to that. We still need, to your point, an engineer needs to know some basic skills, and otherwise it cannot. There's no way that you can interpret what the AI is doing to say is it good, is it bad, and prompt it correctly as well. You know, it's all in the prompt, right?
I mean, I look at it from the creative standpoint. I'm looking at that as a, you know, embracing the tool, right?
Yeah.
Because you think about like what happened with the internet and podcasting that we're doing right now. You have all of a sudden, as a person, are now broadcasting across the planet live right
Insane.
now, and don't have to have $1 billion behind you.
No,
Right.
just the laptop.
So why can't somebody creative do the same thing with AI and say, I want a movie that has actors that look like this, that has this line, that has this story, and
Yeah.
actually generate that. So all of a sudden we have movie producers that are sitting in their home creating movies and using that creative outlet to build that. I know we're a little ways from that, but I mean,
No,
it's
but the
coming.
point, but you have to, you need to. So if you don't know anything about movies and what makes a good movie,
Yeah.
so the prompter, and that's kind of the basics of my point, is the basic skill still needs to be there.
Right.
You know, we
exactly.
need, depending on what you are, process, mechanical, etc., engineer, you need to know how gears work, or you need to know how chemistry works. Otherwise, you won't.
You need the foundational. part.
Exactly.
You really do.
But again, at this to deal with the university part of it, in fact, that's what we're doing. We're working with initiatives, and we're committed. So Tulip is committed to help in this year educate what we call 5,000 AI process engineers. So basically, taking a challenge upon us and say, okay, how do we, you know, how do we
Have
get
that
those
next
people?
generation.
Yeah, the people that are going to get the jobs who know how to use AI
Yeah.
with their skill, and that's going on. Our workshop today and tomorrow and the rest of the week is actually part of that.
Let's meet back here in 5 years and we'll talk about where we are.
If we're still around. I hope we
Exactly.
are. And to your point about the movies, I think my daughter was telling me she had read somewhere that 70% of the music on Spotify is AI generated.
It's
It's
getting
an insane.
crazy. So
Yeah.
you know, when you say that it's not creative enough, I'm like, well,
It's quite
Is
a
it?
lot of things going on.
but I still think there's got to be that kind of spark. It's
Yeah.
not going to create that spark.
Well, you're not going to get a Leonardo da Vinci out of it. You're going to
No.
get
You'll
maybe an
facsimile
Ariana
of it.
Grande or
But
No
Um,
offense, Ariana.
something.
they said the same thing about synthesizers, right? You know,
Yeah.
Back in, was it the 80s? I can't even remember, but that's not music, right? You know.
And then Ozzy used it on Aleister Crowley, and then we all loved it.
Yeah,
So,
right.
So let's talk. Let's get back into the meat, which is now you guys have. We've talked about the development process. You guys have both announced a lot of things here. Prove it. How is AI embedded in Litmus?
Sure.
Is it? Because I like to think of it. Is it something that the user sees when he enters the product? Is it the plumbing? It's probably a little of both.
So we approached it a couple of different ways. I think it was really almost too easy to add a co-pilot to a product and start asking questions, which we have a question and answer and that can be driven by AI. But in my opinion, that's like the old Clippy, you know, from back in the day. For everybody's old enough to remember that.
Oh,
Just
yeah.
kind of helping you with the assistant. That's not really where the power is. So one of the things we did early on is we added the ability to point to whatever model you want. And then in our analytics feature, we added an AI kind of prompt to go to that model, and you can just put in the prompt just like you would in ChatGPT on the website, you know, and type in that prompt. You can actually put that prompt in that analytic, and then the context becomes the data that you're feeding from the manufacturing system. So we could actually go feed it, say, a bunch of OEE data, for example, and then the prompt will be, analyze my OEE data and then come up with a response on that. Or one of my more, I think more useful use cases is more along the lines of, I got a fault on a machine. It's this machine. This fault means this, and then come up with an action plan. So you're daisy chaining the AI prompts with that. And really, the way we look at it is we're bringing the AI closer to the operator. We're closer to the, not having to build a bunch of custom code to make that kind of automated and make that just easy to implement. And then with what we did is we came out with an MCP server actually several months ago, and we're starting to make changes to that and improve that. But it's really giving it access to that API call, so you can start doing configuration like I showed today, troubleshooting with the product and connectivity, the development of the simulation. I was really excited about that when they came up with that idea.
You guys gotta watch it. You get a chance.
Yeah, and then because I think it's too easy to do configuration and work on the data. I wanted to look at it from the standpoint of like, how do we improve our daily lives, right? We're not adding a new PLC every day, but we're having to debug 1,000 PLCs every day. So,
and I think that the other why I created this podcast also was to dispel those ideas that, this is just a fad, it's not useful. And the fact is, it's extremely useful, right? I mean, you've got direct applications every day.
Exactly. I mean, so AI is, very core to much of the things. First of all, we've had AI on the platform for quite a while. Everything from our vision, all our vision capabilities is actually also AI, of course. But the agentic AI perspective, or the agentic AI that we launched actually in Operations Calling last year, and now is kind of progressing and going across our platform. We bring to market, our agentic capabilities, but we also bring a method how to use it, how to apply agents and specifically multi-agent systems in the platform. And so we look at it from two perspectives. There is, when you look at a manufacturing organization, there is, the engineering part of it, the people that create the process, define the process, set quality parameters, help build the lines and set the lines, optimize the lines. That we call, we have a set of agents, or we say there's agentic capability, and we call them builder agents, staff agents. And then we have operations agents. Those are agents that help you while you're operating in the shop floor. And so in the framework, in our agentic framework, you can define those two agents. You can also download, templates from our library, et cetera. But they can do essentially everything for you, from, hey, I need to enhance my data model based on, this requirements, et cetera. But, we also introduced our video composer last year. Basically, you could, if you saw our presentation,
it was really cool.
Yeah, and this is actually why this is so interesting, why the industry likes it. And talk about old age. You were mentioning the.
Why are you looking at me?
No, it's not. It's actually not you. It's a story that you told me about the average age of the controls engineer, right? Well, the average age of most, I had a customer just last month, and they say, my problem is, the average age of equipment in a facility in general is 25 years old. You walk into any facility, that's the average age of equipment. But when the equipment is that old, the people who maintain that equipment are also that old. And he says, look, the guys who really know how to make sure this equipment still runs are getting old. And it's tribal knowledge. I don't know what to do. And I show them the video composer. He's like, can I just go around and video all these old guys and how they do and just fixing stuff? I just want to institutionalize that knowledge. Just translate that into something that somebody can use. So that's, one of the things. But the big scheme of things, again, and I talked about it before, is this notion of democratization is, in the realm of vibe coding, think about, that and applying vibe coding to our space, to, how do we give, the creative guy wants to make a video, a process engineer solve his problem, to speak human language. And that's kind of what we're doing is think about a world where I took a video of somebody doing something, even in a lab environment, like, he's doing whatever in the lab. I feed it the SOPs. I feed it some existing apps that I have. And I said, look, this is all input. I prompt it, and it generates a solution for me, right? And that really is where we're going. It's kind of a all-inclusive, kind of multimodal vibe coding experience where process engineers and quality engineers using human language can basically generate software solutions and don't have to deal with understanding exactly what the tag was in that specific PLC. You basically says, look, I have a piece of equipment, it's bioreactor 5 or it's CNC machine 5. I need OE on that, or I need to connect to that, and I need to feed it with some other whatever CNC program. Make it happen. I don't have to know exactly get it. It knows how to get it connected, format the information, pre-process information, however I need, and then send it out. Right? There's so many implications. We talk about 95 and 88. ISA 88. I had a workshop with a big pharma company, and their big thing like, oh, how do we get this 88 structure and all that stuff? I said, look, your process engineers and your lab technicians or your R&D people, they don't need to know IS 88. They need to speak in their language, explain what they're doing, and it will generate.
Behind the scenes, under the hood, it has to all fit.
Of course,
security and all that stuff, but they don't need to know.
Exactly.
About it,
the agent is the expert in
Yeah.
88.
Yeah.
Right?
I was wondering too, because in your environments, you've got to do a lot of things on premise. You can't do it all on the cloud.
We're,
right?
that's Lumen's edge. The whole idea is
Right.
that we're
So,
on
but using AI, those engines tend to be on the cloud. So, are you thinking of using, building your own model, which is like a large operational model, or using maybe private LLMs on Olama
Yeah,
instead
so-
of
so-
Anthropic?
we've been very, our CEO has been very forward thinking on that whole process. So what we're doing is we're not the AI company. We're not building the models, at least not yet. But the idea is that you can run if you decide you want to use whatever model you want, you can go get Olama if you want to run it on-prem. We can run on a DXG Spark, with a GPU and air gap and manufacturing, air gap and manufacturing system with AI on, layer 2, right? So it really depends on the use case and whether you want that. A lot of our customers are putting the data model in their own data center because they're concerned about security, IP escaping, models and like that kind of thing. So they're actually wanting to move the LLM to closer to the edge on it. So it really just depends on what you're doing with it. Same thing with we work with Tulip. We love working with them because they're cloud, focused. That's where they want to live. We want to live at the edge, and we're basically creating data models to feed to them for those use cases, and it's a great partnership.
Yeah.
Same
Glad
thing
I
with
had you guys
AI.
on the same
Yeah, I
call.
know. It's the same thing with AI, right? It depends on the use case and where you want to run it. But
Yeah.
we're giving you the options.
And again, so we're an open platform, but we use AI internally, but again, it's just to support the user experience, but we also provide MCP to our platform if you want to have access to any of the information there. And we were just talking about this. In a modern digital architecture, it's not, I ask people how many apps they have on their phone, just as an example, right? It's not one system is going to solve everything for you. In the modern world, digital world, there are dedicated systems to solve specific problems, and they have to work together. That's how the digital landscape looks together, and even trivial examples such as, I'm using Google Maps to go from one place to the other, and it's prompting me whether I want to hear my latest podcast. Google Maps is why, because it has Spotify, right? I don't. These are two different systems. They all serve their purpose, but they work together. Again, trivial example, but the point of this is that to at a minimum to get the max benefit out of in the digital space, you need edge. You need somebody to serve be your frontline operator, deal with the people, build the human operators on the floor and the processes. But again, all that data, because there are legacy systems and a lot of them, needs to go to somewhere in the cloud where you can gain those insights. And we have partners in that space. I think, and you have Databricks and Snowflake, and that needs to be part of this as well, because you're not going to push ERP data into Tulip or to the edge, right? And guess what? ERP data, whether we love and hate it, it has the money. And that's an important aspect of manufacturing, and we need to have that context when we want to get insights of how we're doing.
So we're about 3-4 years into this AI craziness, right? And we've seen the MCP wave go by, and then whatever the hell that notebook thing was. Right?
Yeah, right.
Where do you, well, first of all, are you as skeptical or bullish as you were before? And then where do you think, what's the next step? What's the next thing that's going to change manufacturing thanks to AI?
I'm definitely more bullish now that I've actually gotten into it and seeing the possibilities that are out there. I am still skeptical. I'm not skeptical of AI. I'm just skeptical of, is there hype between the whole, you know, 4 lines of building an application that can be supported, in the prompt. So I'm a
And
little
also like
skeptical.
the last mile, like that other
Yeah,
twenty
I think I'm
percent.
skeptical of the overemphasis of its possibility, but I also got to be careful because who knows what's going to happen next week, next month, next year, right? It's getting better and better and better at such an accelerated rate. It's hard for anybody to predict what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So bullish but skeptical, if I could call it both.
So I mean, I've been bullish about it all along. It's kind of been in my career. In fact, I felt, when I was working, what I call the establishment, I was always so frustrated about the speed and the fact that, they're not moving that fast. But to your point, it's moving so fast that I think one thing that we promote with our customers is this notion of continuous transformation. We're past the point where it's one-time digital transformation. Maybe we thought a few years ago, okay, this new technology is going to come. There's going to be a big shift, and we're going to embrace it and use it. I think we're at a point where we actually don't know what's going to happen next year, so we need to be ready to embrace the new technology. So what we're looking at, and uh, I did a webinar just a few weeks ago, kind of a trends into 2026. And one of the things that I talked about there was
Mm.
that the world is in disruption because of all the macro things that are going on, and we won't get into it. But the politics and the supply chain, all that great stuff. But in addition to that, companies have to now start deal with another disruption, and that disruption is the technology that's coming at them at such a fast pace,
Yeah, the rate.
and the fact that they don't even know what it's going to look like by the next year. So they have to be ready at any given time to embrace new technology to this, and that's what we call continuous transformation. So we're in kind of a ready to embrace mode all the time.
Yeah, I make most customers or most manufacturers out there are not ready for just enterprise data structure or data platform, much less ML. So there's been a big leap to try to start driving some of that and saying, to your point, Gilad, is like, we know it's coming. We need to get ready now and start setting that foundation.
Yeah.
Before they can actually, so they are ready to embrace it. And I wanted to make another comment on the bullish and skeptical. It's bullish to me because I'm starting to use it and seeing the power, and as I learn and from other people and challenge it, that I'm getting a lot of great information that's really helping me personally in my role and my team. It's helping our company. I'm skeptical because I'll see in the same day, this happened yesterday, same day, I'll read a LinkedIn article saying, from an AI ops guy that's like, listen, you need the foundation, and sorry, I can't reference who it is. I just don't remember it. Not that I can't tell you, but it was a great just kind of discussion. Like, no, you really need the foundation. It's not just writing a prompt and having it build and walking away and building an app. And then the same day, I'm reading an article how somebody saying that they're building apps and it takes them 3 hours and they can just release it to the world. So I'm like, okay, who's right?
Yeah.
Right? Who do I believe on that one? So that's where the skepticism comes in from the standpoint of
Yeah.
Well, I have to
where
say,
really are we in that space?
from what I've seen over the last 2 days, it seems like before I thought engineering and PLM I had this big lead, but I think you guys are catching up pretty quick.
I would think so.
It's pretty amazing. So just before just the last section, I usually ask about digital maturity because my thesis is using startups is a really great way of moving that dial. So I think of digital maturity on a scale of 1 to 5. 1, I'm still using email as a collaboration tool and Excel for almost everything. M-bombs and E-bombs in my world. Your customers, and then after you put in Litmus, is there this leap, or is there an epiphany where the customer's like, "Oh my God, if I did data governance and I broke down the silos, I could get all this benefit."
Great question. I think I've seen everything between a 1 and a 4
A 4?
Well, maybe not a 4. 1 in 3 for sure.
Wow.
We got some people because I start to see that are doing some things around, already implementing like a Kubernetes and a CI/CD pipeline on the factory floor, which is kind of rare to see nowadays.
I just interviewed Portainer.io, and that's
yeah,
his thing.
Yeah, so and being basically a container, but like that's where we're heading. We're going away from that. We moved from desktop PCs, physical boxes running to a VM, and eventually, then containers, and then into Kubernetes, and then that deployment aspect of your infrastructure becomes writing text, and it just happens for you. So I'm seeing some of that kind of thing as well. But I've also seen some customers that like we don't have any connectivity, and they're at all, and they're just starting out in that. So there's definitely a pattern that I've seen over time, which is that connect, as Walker would talk about, connect, collect, store, analyze. There's that path, but what ends up happening, you start getting into things like cloud, UNS, AI, data, then data modeling comes in, and there's kind of they have to take a step back because they didn't realize where they were going.
Or they skipped a step.
They skipped a step, or it's not a linear progression. It's like a sawtooth. It's like they go up and then have to come back down because they missed a step, and go up and come back down. So it slows them down a little bit.
But there's still a progression.
There's a progression, and at some point they get into scale, which is usually a lot of times where they start talking to us, so they realize they built something that I can't manage, and I can't monitor, I can't replicate this thing. So that's where we come in.
Very cool. How about for Julep?
Yeah, so that's a very common question. I get it asked by many analysts kind of every day, and there's no easy answer there. We look at, in our world it's much broader. I think you can look at it from a vertical perspective. So different industries are in different places. You can look at it from a kind of a level of automation. I think companies that have high level of automation are in general.
We talked about this at lunch.
Yeah, they're in general a bit more forward. I mean, they feel more comfortable with all the data, but we have companies that don't have anything on the shop floor.
Yeah.
100% manual.
Yeah. And we've seen progressions. We've seen companies that start out with we just want dashboards on the floor, right? They're starting to build their data foundation, and then it's like, okay, now we can aggregate data, and we're start doing cloud-based, dashboards, and looking at enterprise, and then have evolved and starting to work with big analytics like Databricks, and then they're going to start building ML models and AI models, and those are going to come back down to the edge. So there's definitely a progression that I've seen out there, right? And companies are at different stages in that.
They are very different. I mean, I walked into a jewelry manufacturer in Thailand, and it's rows and rows and rows of people. There's no PLCs. It's just rows and rows and rows of people with magnifying glasses just doing this stuff. So, manufacturing is very diverse and broad. And I think what I'm saying is that if they have some level of automation on the floor, that's a good foundation. But in general, it really is very industry dependent. It's vertical dependent. It's region dependent and everything. Step number one is just starting to capture information. If you have PLCs, you kind of, Litmus is a way to go. But if you don't have any automation, we just say, just put some apps together, just capture information of what they're doing.
But even if you have no PLCs, right? That's not, our space is in that automated world, right? But in your world, we started doing the manual assembly. There's data. There's data with those jewelry makers making things.
Well, one of the things we're looking at is how do we capture some of that information with cameras and other things,
exactly.
Right? Exactly. So there's a lot. But to answer that in a kind of a different way, the manufacturing industry has always been kind of backwards and not in the forefront when it comes. That's the premise of Tulip, and our vision is to bring digital into manufacturing, which has been starved for that information. Everybody uses smartphones, but if you're going to manufacturing, they're still on paper, and there's that problem. I think what happened last year with AI capturing so much of the news, and a lot of it kind of turned the tide of it, and I think you can see that in the attention that executives are bringing to the digital space. It's no longer a wait and see. It's, oh shit, we need to do something. And
why didn't we start earlier?
Yeah, and I think the CEO of Ford, after I don't know if you saw that, he came back from China. He stood publicly and said, we are way behind.
Right.
And I think that's one of the wake up calls that is happening in terms of what's going on. And I think the industry this year, we're going to see much more strategic. A lot of money being put in that. World Economic Forum. Our CEO just came back from that, and I think we're kind of seeing some of that. So it's much more serious.
Yeah, I made a comment about that during a presentation. We've got a bunch of C-levels that are coming back from these conferences and visiting factories or talking to analysts, and it's like that kind of like, we need to use AI, go, right? And it's like, oh, okay, they have no idea what it's really like in the factory floor and what the data looks like and how, if you want to call it far behind, but basically what it exists today and where they need to be. There's a huge gap in that area, and it's like that's where we're helping to close that. Tulip's helping to close that.
Exactly, and that's what's interesting, at least for us, because now we're starting to see. Cause I've been dealing with skepticism for the last, I would say, 28 years. I came out of university with this multi-agent system idea, and then I went to industry and I go,
that's crazy. That will never work.
What's an agent, and why do you call it multi, and what is that? And just shut up and go use Excel.
Yeah.
Well, this is one of those times. Sorry to keep going on. I love talking about this stuff. Is that these concepts are most of the time ahead of the technology, right? You can look at the Babbage different engine from the 1800s that was doing square calculations on it. He had a design for another one to do square root, but they didn't have the technology to actually build it, right? So same with AI. The 90s was you didn't have the technology to run it, right? So sometimes that hardware has to catch up to the concept.
I read a book about Theodore Diesel, and one of the reasons why
I haven't read that book, but it's on my list.
Was because they couldn't manufacture.
Could,
with wood. There's not a whole lot you could do.
Right.
So you could do smelting and you could do alloys.
Right.
And that was just a mind blowing. It's just like, wow.
That's necessity the mother of invention.
Exactly. But what happened to the one that he runs on vegetable oil? What happened to that one?
Then the conspiracy theory stuff.
Well, this has been fantastic.
Yeah, great.
Thank you. A lot of fun.
Thanks for the invitation.
And this conference is just.
We love this conference. It's so different than all the other ones that are out there, which is just basically slide decks all day. And to actually be on stage and doing those demos. And
I gotta say, you guys got a.
It's a different
experience
because
that must be kind of terrifying.
So it's fun though. I really love this event, and hoping to see everybody here next year as well.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'm glad I got to meet you guys.
Yeah, same here.
Thanks. We'll hopefully be back with a couple more